The Business Oddcast.
And welcome to the Oddcast, episode 3, series 1. We're going to be doing this, but we're autistic, or we're at least neurodiverse, and we're going to be taking little breaks. Who's my co-host today?
It's me again, Hannah, willing and able. Well, yeah.
And I'm Stuart Morrison, and together we co-host the Oddcast, and this is about business and life on the spicy side of the spectrum. So, Hannah, what has your week been? What have you been up to? What have you been doing? Because we saw each other earlier in the week. How's it been?
We did, we did. It's been a good week, but like past Hannah decided it was a really good idea to book in like all the networking, cram it all in to as fewer days as possible, regardless of whether I've got the spoons or not. So, what are we on? That's the point. I don't even know what day we're on. Is it
Thursday.
Thursday?
It's
There you
Thursday.
go. We're on day 4 of the week, and I'm at the kind of lots of coffee stage, fighting the spoons, pretending that it's not really an issue, dragging myself through it. But I was networking last night, and it was great. But I was very aware that I had to keep having that inner monologue of like, am I here? Is this real? Oh, yes, I am. Okay, start being normal again.
Do you want to share what you shared with me earlier, the little anecdote? Because I feel so seen when you told me this. I was just like, so many times, so many times. You don't have to, but it was about saying something which
I can. It was a beautiful example of the mask slipping and the filter not engaging in time because we were talking about BNI. Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
that is
Anyway, we,
like,
we were talking about another form of networking, and this particular chap said he'd been banned, and we were kind of having that conversation about what that looked like, and I said, what did you do? And he was really cagey and he was just like, just, a bunch of things I don't really want to talk about. And before I had any time to filter it, I said, and I was trying to be funny, but I said it in a kind of mock serious voice. I could have said, was it sexual deviance? And he just looked at me like he didn't really know what I was doing, saying. And then, as if that wasn't enough, before like my sensible side had a chance to rein me back in, I said, "Did you slip into somebody's DMs?" And I think he just did not know what that meant. And then I thought, oh, I've just not picked the right, or read the room, Hannah.
lost the
Read the room.
audience.
Lost the audience, but because I could not could not cover it, I was just giggling to myself. It was like I was doing a stand-up just for me, and I thought I was brilliant.
That's
Although
my
actually,
that's my
sorry,
entire life. That's my entire life.
I thought I was a genius. I all the way home, I was like, "Oh, you are very funny."
If I'd have been stood there, if I'd have been sipping a drink, a coffee or whatever, I'd have done a spit take. I would have that just to a T. So many times I've said something and elicited that response in somebody, either a blank stare of like, what the hell are you talking about? Or the complete like, it's
Oh,
me. Hello.
it was magnificent. It just, yeah, there was a moment or two where I thought at this point, do I just pretend I didn't say any of that and carry on? So that's kind of what I opted for, really. I just totally detoured the conversation. There
But
wasn't even an anyway, it was just change of route.
were, were you playing that over and over and over on loop for the rest of the show, for the rest of the event?
I was, but not in a self-deprecating way. So in the past, I might have been like, what did I do? What did I do? Like over
Yeah,
and
yeah,
over,
yeah,
self-loathing. This wasn't. It was a kind of, that was hilarious. Was it appropriate? I don't care. Was it? It was hilarious, just over and over. It's
yeah.
just, yeah.
Just my mask is slipping right there. Right. That teased me nicely into the topic. We haven't discussed the topic, but this is the topic because I went networking as well earlier this week. It's taken me all week to recover, I gotta
Yeah.
say. So this week is As it's the Business Oddcast, and we talk to small business owners, and we are ourselves small business owners.
Yep.
We're going to talk about networking, small talk, inappropriate. Oh, man. Inappropriate is contextual. Take it with a
Yeah.
grain of salt.
Not ideal is probably a
I would have totally laughed. The amount of times I've said stuff, just in my head, I'm like, if I'd have said that in front of my mate Jason, he would have collapsed. He would have found so. Yeah, just pedestrian senses of humour. Yeah, it's on you, not me. You know, that's how I felt during my stand-up career. That's funny. You just don't understand it.
long as I'm laughing, who cares?
That was 90% of it. Like they say, dance like no one's looking. Yeah, I perform like comedy like no one's laughing.
Network like you don't need the work.
So, networking. Hannah Logan, you are a master networker. You have been networking all this week. You network extensively. I have in the past done a hell of a lot. I used to have a business partner many, many, many moons ago. And he used to do all the networking. So when he left, I was like, I'm going to go to every single networking event. And I'm going to judge based on those networking events which ones I'm going to stay at. Just because, I can't go to them all. I've only got so much time and energy. Back then, I was completely masked even to myself. So in the closet, masked, unaware, but I realised it took its toll. How do you do it? What top tips for ND networking?
Top tips. So I would say it's changed. It's changed over the months of kind of networking. Networking has really been a bigger thing for me this year. When I started, I am well aware that I'm not very good at small talk. I can't do small talk.
As demonstrated.
As demonstrated.
Fine example.
Oh, as if it's, there's the proof, Your Honour. Exhibit B. And yet I felt forced at the beginning into a bit of a hello, what do you do? Where do you live? What do you do? Over and over and over. But quite quickly I realised all that was doing was just getting me loads of business cards that I never followed up on, or loads of promises that I never really followed up on because I hadn't got enough information to filter them through. Like, is there a connection here? Could we collaborate? Can I help them? Can they help me? I'd not done that. It was just names and cards and vague memories of what they might or might not do. So I learned pretty quickly that actually for me it's about building, and I say this to everybody regardless of whether they're neurodiverse or neurotypical. To me it's about building kind of meaningful relationships, I suppose, for the want of a better word, because that's building up trust. And actually you're not just networking with people that in fact you shouldn't be networking with people you think you can sell to. It isn't about that. I often use an analogy when I'm talking to people about this stuff. I think of a networking event as a bit like a party. Like if you go to a party, well, probably I am this person, but if you go to a party and you're like, hi, I'm amazing, quite quickly everyone's like, don't talk to the lady that keeps talking about how amazing she is, because it's off-putting, it's not believable. Are you amazing? That's a big thing, big statement right there. But then also if you're the one in the corner not talking to anybody, you're missed completely. So I see networking as the same. Actually, just listen. If somebody's saying something interesting, comment, but add value. Don't be like, yeah, that's amazing, and then turn it back to yourself. It's about adding value, isn't it? And listening more than you talk, I think which is a real struggle for me. The whole time I'm like, stop, Hannah. In my head, I'm like, no, not yet, not yet. Not.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's true. So to me, it's about deeper connection, giving people the chance to speak, and actually always following up with the people that you think you could connect with in some way on a sort of deeper level, but not everybody. The temptation is just to arrange a million coffees. So yeah.
When I went to all those networking groups, I found that there were people who were serial networkers, and that was it's like, how do they get any work done? I've come to 5 networking events today, and they've been at every single one. And this is an anomaly for me, but they're there like you go back a few months later and they're there. Yeah, it's, I
I might be that person, by the way.
I find the networking thing interesting. I do realise, and that there are stats to back this up, around about 80% of any small, especially a local business, any of their leads come from word of mouth. And networking is effectively word of mouth. You know, you get to know people, they trust you, they like what they see, hear, etc. And then, you know, when the opportunity comes along, they hopefully recommend you or phone you up, or someone gets in touch, says, oh, so and so says you do such and such. And so I get the value in it. My only trouble with it is this: a lot of those leads are completely unqualified. So you go to a networking event and somebody hears what you do, but they don't hear the nuance. And the amount of times I've had people come to me and say, oh, apparently you do websites. And I'm like, well, yeah. And they'll say, oh, I've got a Shopify site. And I'm like, I'll have to stop you there. We don't specialize in Shopify. I can find someone for you. And I, in fact, know a good Shopify guy. But we specialize on WordPress. But if it's a general kind of like, what should I do with my website? We can have a conversation. But if it's I've got a technical issue, whilst we might be able to help you out in the short term, it's not our long term goal to be a Shopify thing.
Yeah.
And I find it that when you go networking, therefore, people hear the pigeonhole and put you in it. And I know that's the same for other people because I've had this kind of conversation. How do you qualify your leads? How any tips over the years about how to get that sort of, you know, nuance delivered?
It's really hard because I'm a brand strategist. That's a bit like saying I'm a person with ears. You know, it's such a giant bucket. Yeah, I'm a brand strategist, and you see them go, "Oh, I don't know what that means." It like you do strategy for I don't know, or business strategist. Sorry, not just a brand strategist. So I kind of quite quickly I go into hopefully a brief explanation of what that accurately looks like. And quite quickly that filters people out. But it isn't, most of the people I'm meeting at these networking events are not people that will ever buy from me, I would imagine, or they aren't necessarily in that moment somebody that will. For me, it's a lot more about brand awareness. Just keep showing up, getting in front of these people. Because you said word of mouth and sort of all that recommendation stuff is what we're really, really looking for in an ideal world.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody connects with me in a networking meeting, they're connecting with 30 odd years of business experience,
Yeah,
contacts, a wide range of diverse industries that I've been involved with,
yeah.
different projects, different skill sets. You know, I always, in my head, this is it, right? One of the people with the greatest network in Hollywood is Kevin Bacon. And the reason that they say this is because of the 6 degrees of separation, and they call it 6 degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon. So you should be able to connect yourself within 6 degrees of separation to Kevin Bacon because he's worked on some crazy films and had such a long career. And I always feel a bit like that, you know, because you've been around long enough and you've done a wide, diverse number of different things with different people, and you have some specialisms, but that you are, you know, you are fairly well connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely that. You know, I was talking to a guy that runs he's a graphic designer and runs a small agency last night, and the conversation I'm having with him actually was more about sort of UX, user experience of websites and all that kind of stuff, whereas I wouldn't have that specific conversation with somebody else if it was more about small business strategies and stuff. So every conversation's a bit different. And I think when I first came to networking, I almost, because of the way my brain works, I almost needed this kind of in my head, this little like monologue I was going to do. But quite quickly, I realized it isn't about just churning out this same paragraph to everybody, because it's totally dependent on who you're talking to and what value you can give them based on what they do and their needs and their interests and stuff. So yeah, it has to change every time, which is quite awkward if you struggle with that stuff. Um,
I
it's
find sometimes the small talk not problematic. I'm Because one of my special interests when I was younger was trivia.
Yeah.
hoovered up trivia and trivia across the board from many different weird, odd places. And sometimes I don't even know I have this trivia in my head until somebody says something and I go, "Oh, did you know?" And I feel like, that's at least something we can talk about. Amount of times that goes nowhere because they just look at you like, "What an odd fact." Okay.
They're like, okay, I'm gonna.
Um, so a lot of the interactions for me in
Mm,
networking, I find really difficult. I adopt an interviewee style,
yeah.
interviewee by just asking barrages of questions because I figure
Mm.
if I ask them enough questions, they're not going to be able to, which is terrible, really, because they're not going to remember me. But in fact, they
Scattergun.
are. They are going to remember me because I'm the guy in the loud suit and the tash, and they'll just go loud suit, tash, websites, and that's it. And I'm kind of like, it's over to you. You got to try and get in here because a lot of my friends, I'm the normal one. you know,
They sound like my
you know.
tribe.
Yeah, I very. I realized for a long time I've been strutting around like completely unmasked. This was just me. The point of like, fuck it. I am what I am. If you like it, great. Otherwise, it's a filter, you know. And of course, all the people on the spectrum, they all know, don't they? The ones that they feel comfortable with you because you're able to monologue and take the pressure off
Yeah. Yeah.
them. You let them ramble about their special interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think when we met, it was like within 5 minutes, like five, it was maximum. It was like, oh yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
I love that. I mean, this is a slight tangent, but that's me, right? So I remember somebody, so my father, we've talked about my dad before, he was magnificent and he had so many brilliant stories to tell. He would talk about himself a lot. And I don't mean himself like, I'm amazing, like this kind of self-appreciation society, but he would just talk a lot about his experiences in the theatre and everything that he did, really. He was an actor and a writer and stuff, as you know. And I remember people, or a couple of people, would say to me, "Oh, your dad just talks about himself all the time, like he was a bit of an egomaniac, or, it was his show, and nobody else got a word in." But it wasn't like that. And as I got older and got a much better understanding of neurodiversity and realized that he is clearly neurodiverse, or was, he's not around anymore. Then I realized what he was doing was filling those awkward gaps with something he knew a lot about, and that was his experiences. And actually, I could relate to it. I loved his stories, they were magnificent. He was the world's best joke teller. And I never felt that he was on an ego trip, but maybe because I'm quite similar. But yeah, I can see how the neurotypicals would think, oh, you're just talking about yourself a lot. And I think that's a misconception with
But
with
I,
yeah,
I really enjoy a story from somebody who's
yeah.
clearly telling you something, a slice of life that you've not, even if it's
Mm.
not particularly your interest, or it might be
Yeah.
even a bit flat and monotone. I'm really fascinated by because my mind is there's a million questions going off because it's like
Yeah.
so I I struggle with exams. I've really struggled because my brain doesn't take just the word on the page, it investigates the word. A clock is
Yeah.
stopped and da 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 da. And it's like, well, what sort of clock? Is it a digital clock or an analog clock? It
Why
must
did
be an
it
analog
stop?
clock, because you're saying it has a time on it. So therefore a digital clock, but a digital clock might have glitched and be just showing that time. So does and my mind will get obsessed about that. But and it's the same with sometimes with small talk, even with
Mm.
a dull or boring story, my brain will drill into. Have you had this situation? You're sitting there, you're watching a film, perfectly a reasonable film, you're enjoying the film, and then somebody comes in, a character, they introduce a character, second act or whatever, plot twist, there's this other character, and this character comes in just to drive the plot on a little bit. But they come from somewhere and they go somewhere, or you never see them again. And in my
Mm.
head, I'm like, who was that person? Where's that person come from? Why have they said that? What was their motivation behind that? Why have they done that? And are we going back to them? Because I want to know more about that person. And it can totally ruin a film for me because I have watched so many films where I have been narrating these little kind of, well, they must have done this and they've done that, and I have missed chunks of the film, and I'm like, oh. I didn't keep. Why have they done that now? And it's like, keep up. They did this thing after they met that bloke. Oh, right. Oh, yeah. I missed that.
I'm banned from watching films in my house because I ask so many questions, or rather watching films with others. Why does that lady do? I don't get it. Why does she have the dog? She didn't have the dog in the last scene. What's going on there? It's
Oh,
irrelevant. Stop
do,
talking.
do you, I always think of it as bonus points if you spot a continuity error.
Yes.
Love a
Different
continuity error.
top. Why they got a different top?
My favourite one is drinks jumping up and down in glasses. And having been on film set, running scenes with food and drink is a nightmare because you have to keep trying to remember where they were up to. And that's why they hate it because, like, if somebody's eating something, they might do 4 or 5 takes where they have to keep spitting it out. Otherwise, I'm too full. Like, I need. It's a nightmare. But my digression was to say, when you go networking, when you go business networking, which after all is what we're talking about. Any insights into how somebody could stop their brain running away with them and stay sort of more rooted in the moment? Because I've found a little bit of stimming, a little bit of covert toe stimming helps.
Ah, excuse me, sorry. Yeah, so interestingly, you said about the stimming. I'm not wearing it today, so it's a bad example, but I have a ring which is called a spinner ring. So it's a normal ring, but it's got the
Yeah.
outer ones are spinny. Because I found when I was in meetings before or in networking, I would just play with my rings, spinning, and it looked a bit obvious. But now, if I have my hands low down, it's a stim, right? But I just very subtly just push this outer ring of my ring around, and it just grounds me in that moment. Otherwise, quite quickly, I'm like a dog with the squirrels. I'm like, oh, like looking all over the place, and then I look like the person that's trying to pick somebody more interesting, and that's 100% not what I'm doing.
No.
So I think the stim thing is really, is really important. Or just to find a way to, which I guess for us is stims, really to find a way for us to ground ourselves in that moment and stay with that. Another thing I really struggle with, and I'm definitely not alone with this, is with my ADHD, it's the noise around me does make me dog and squirrel mode. So I'm like, somebody's laughing over there. I have to force myself to not be like, oh, what's going on? Because it's really distracting for everybody. And then I miss what the person I'm actually talking to is saying, and it looks rude. And I always explain why I do that, but I try not to do that because actually it disjoints the conversation for everybody.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, how do you do that? I suppose, like you said, grounding yourself, trying to really focus on the moment that you're in. I try not to. So last night I joined a group of about 3 other people, and that was too much because then they all started cross talking, and I was like, oh no. In my head, I was kind of like, know your limits, Hannah. One or two, one ideally.
It's like somebody hitting all the notes on a piano at the
Yeah,
same time, going, "Do you like the tune?" And you're like, "What tune?" Nay, nay, nay. I can't hear a thing.
it
Just
just doesn't work.
the noise in some networking rooms, like the bright
Mm,
surfaces and all of those noises coming back at you. I'm not just
yeah,
hearing noise, I'm hearing the echo of the noise, and it's just crescendoing. And that
yeah,
person in front of me, it's like sometimes I just can't make eye contact. There's energy going into that. Oh, stay. Oh, have you been staring too long? Look away. Now look back. Oh, yeah. And that coupled with like all of the inputs on the sound mixing desk are fully up. There's
yeah,
no filter, there's no kind of moderation or
mm,
able to filter. And I'm I'm sometimes I feel like I have to turn away to
yeah,
listen because I have to. And this was interesting. So Sir Sterling Moss, the
yeah.
famous
Not
racing
personally,
driver.
sadly, but yeah.
My father-in-law once had to drive him to a shoot.
No,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
very.
And he was lent this Mini Cooper to pick him up, take him to the shoot. There was something in the shoot about the car. He then
Yeah,
drove him back, and he said to him at the end of it, my father-in-law turned to Sterling Moss, or Sterling Moss as he was then,
yeah.
and said, "Oh, I've been really nervous all day, driving you about, etc." And Sir Sterling Moss turned to him and said, "Oh, why?" He said, "You're an adequate driver."
Adequate.
Adequate.
That's just you'd be better off just saying you're terrible.
You know,
I'd rather be terrible than
petrol all
adequate.
over yourself. Thump, in the carpet. Done.
You're
Done.
okay. Oh, really, Sterling? Come on. Lie to me.
But you see, it's contextual from him. It's
Yeah.
like, you know,
Oh yeah, adequate to him is like, the best of the best to us.
but there was a anecdotal story that I heard him tell, saying that in the early days he used to do a lot of rallying, and when
Mm,
you're rallying you have a co-driver, and the co-driver, or the navigator as they
mm,
sometimes are referred to, they tell you what's coming up in the road, you know, whether the bend's
yeah.
left, right, tight, sharp, over a hump, round a corner, what you're doing. And usually the driver is hearing at least one or two obstacles further ahead. So what's
Yeah.
going on in front of him, they're just reacting to. That's their driver reaction, but they're
Yeah.
processing like a lot of
Yeah.
information further on,
Mm,
so that they're setting themselves up so that when I come out of this corner, anyway.
mm,
So what they found was they paired him with this guy, and this co-driver, this navigator, he kept getting the blame for crashes, and Sterling just kept saying, "You're not calling out the corners," and he's like, "I'm screaming the corners." So they looked at the comms, they looked at all the rest
mm.
of it. He did an early brain study, and what they found was the blood flow to his auditory input, his ears, was minimal. The stimulation in his brain in that area
Oh.
was almost
Mm.
nothing. And he was pretty much functionally deaf because he was focused so hard on the visual cortex that he basically became functionally deaf
Incredible.
whilst driving at speed.
Yeah.
So his co-driver found out a load of hand signals that he could do in his
Mm.
peripheral vision. And we all know that, well, we don't all know, but maybe you know that autistics tend to have a wider peripheral vision. And that, you know, they started winning all
Mm.
sorts of things, mainly because of this one thing. And I just, I use that story to illustrate the fact that there are skills in and around not being able to necessarily focus in certain situations, but
Yeah.
adaptations can help. Like maybe just turn the light down a little, maybe not have it in a room that's got hard surfaces everywhere.
Yes.
Just, you know, and playing music as well. Just putting some, I'll just put some background. No, clap your hands away from the, no, what? No, we're not having music.
Right.
Why is
Why
that?
do
Because I'll hear
they
the tune, key into the tune. That'll be it.
singing along? And I went to one networking event and they had a woman, she was great. But at the beginning, I guess it was just as we were arriving and getting a coffee and settling down, there was a woman singing. And she was singing for probably the first half hour and quite loudly and very well, to be fair. But I just thought, what is this fresh hell that I've just entered into? How am I meant to listen, speak, and also process very loud singing? It's just a nope for me. So what I did, in fact, this is another, listening closely, callers.
Yeah.
This is another top tip. When I go to networking events, if I feel like that, I just take myself off into a quiet corner. If there's a table where I can sit, most people at networking events are walking around, or they certainly are at the beginning. Sometimes I just take myself out away from the flock for a little bit just to recenter myself. And often I find, which I love, I actually attract the people that probably are my people, because I'm the lone wolf sitting at a table on her own, enjoying the peace, which is probably not the norm at a networking event, but actually somebody else that probably feels similarly to me comes and finds me and says, "Oh, can I join you?" And then suddenly I'm talking to somebody that, where we have a lot in common, maybe not business wise, but certainly, of the way that we're approaching networking and stuff. Or I approach, in reverse, I approach the person that's on their own looking awkward, because I want to make them feel a bit better. And then actually that's a really good conversation starter as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They can be ways around and through. And like you say, you know, if you are, I've met a few people outside networking rooms where you pretend, oh, I've just got to go outside to deal with this, and you just I need to use the loo, you know. Oh, I've left something in the car. Parking's about to run out. I've just got to nip out. I've got 1,000. I've got 1,000.
Got all the good tips on how to escape and re-center.
I'm king of the Irish goodbye. I don't know if is that racist to say
Oh
that?
my goodness. No, well, no, I don't think it is.
I think it's commonly accepted, but
Yeah.
I've always been the one who's like, oh, I don't want to disturb everyone by making it. I find it a bit showy. I'm leaving now, everybody. My
Bye.
presence will be missed. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Garlands,
Try not to
plaudits.
cry.
Oh,
I'll
no.
be back.
I've just let me do this speech, you know. Just leave already.
It's so weird that you said that because that is so weird. So I was talking to somebody else last night, that we both know actually in networking, and I said, look, just to warn you, when time's getting towards the end, I just leave. Most people that know me at these events know that I do not do the goodbye. I don't want to hug people. I'm literally like, I say bye to the person next to me.
Hug a
I'm not a
stranger.
hugger.
Hug a
I'm a
stranger.
ducker. I'm a side swiper when it comes to that. So, and this woman said, the Irish goodbye. And I said, and I'd never heard of it. And now I've heard of it twice in
Oh,
48
wow.
hours.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah,
I've been doing that without being aware of the fact it had a title. But yeah, it's not rude for me. I'm not good at it. I don't want to do that kind of round the room air kissing thing. I'm like, I love you all in my head. Goodbye.
yeah.
I'm gone. Where's Hannah gone? Oh, she just left
I love it
randomly.
at a party when they're drinking, especially because when you see them next time, you didn't say goodbye, didn't I? I'm
I
sure I
did.
said goodbye. I went round the room.
I
Did
gave you a
you?
hug. I swung
Yeah.
you around.
I said I'll give you a call.
You
You
know,
said
really,
you'd phone me next week. Never did. I was all right with that though. Did you?
so, I love the way that we've kind of developed. I mean, it's fabulous, isn't it? We've developed these kind of, I guess they are coping strategies, but actually, the best thing is we've worked out ways to make ourselves more comfortable in the kind of neurotypical situations that freak us out or that we struggle or can struggle with. And that's magnificent because actually to be able to recognize those situations and be like, actually this works best this way for me is hopefully what a lot of what we're imparting to our listeners, really, these kind of tips.
You see, Monday we went to the same networking event, which was a network of networking events, which was
Yeah, what does that mean?
better in my head. Just I it was exhausting, I've got to say. It was nearly 3 hours of me. I'm really interested. I am interested in other people, but 3 hours of effectively the same sort of conversation with the idea of leaving them with a positive impression of who I
Yeah,
was there representing. Because I wasn't there representing my own business. I was there
no,
representing somebody else's. So you have to try a little bit harder, because
yeah,
it's somebody else is paying for your time. There's no sitting down scrolling through Facebook.
yeah.
And I have to say, it didn't come out of nowhere, but the Tuesday morning, I was what I call absent. My brain just refuses to. It's like trying to push wet spaghetti through a letterbox. It's just not going to happen.
I'm
And
going to try that later. You know that, don't you, Stu?
it's like pushing with a rope. Oh, I've gone out of focus. Hello,
Oh,
hello.
yeah, there he is.
It's like pushing rope. And I've learned that rather than get frustrated and go in and try and do whatever, because whatever I'm going to do, there will be a mistake and I will have to redo it. I've accepted
Yeah,
that. I just gave myself at least the morning off. I was just like, I'll just go in and do the barest minimum
yeah,
admin this afternoon. But this morning, I am spent. There is no more left to give. And if I give any more, it's a little bit. I know people talk about energy, but I also think a bit like money. It's
yeah.
like I have got an overdraft at the moment. I'm running an overdraft. I'm
Mm,
not close to the end of my overdraft, but I am in it. And
mm,
I know that, and I can only keep that going for so long before,
mm.
the burnout starts to become more present.
Yeah,
But I know there's a finite end to it because I'm doing a garden project. We've got a business
yeah,
project, and I've got this that's sort of being launched. So there's a lot of stuff sort of up in the air. But
mm,
I know that come September, we'll get through August. August will be what
mm.
August is. But we'll come to September, and I can. not cruise, but I can reap the rewards of all the stuff
Yeah.
that I've done. And I know that my September to December, I'll just
Mm.
be pretty much going through the same motions and doing my normal things that I do without all of the extra noise. So that sort of
Yeah.
goes away because those projects finish, and then I've
Mm.
just got my week to week noise, and I know I'll be able to cope, and that
Yeah.
will allow me to recharge and restock the battery and the bank account, the energy
Yeah.
bank account.
Absolutely that. And I think, unfortunately, and you and I are old enough and wise enough to have kind of learnt probably, well, most definitely the hard way. And actually now we have a lot of these strategies in place, which is brilliant. But I think as somebody that did feel a lot of not good enough, not, having to overprove myself or feeling like I had to overprove myself just to reach the kind of norm level of those around me. Some of that was in my mind, but some of that was also my experiences. I think we can have a tendency, or I certainly can have a tendency to just keep pushing harder and harder and harder until something, some of the wheels fall off.
Yeah,
And then I'm learning and I'm much better now, but certainly it's really important is what I'm saying. Really, it's really, really important to recognize our energy and what we need to do to kind of stop ourselves dropping off that cliff edge and stuff,
I think,
especially when it comes to our business.
yeah, and I think especially there's this trap as well, especially if
Mm,
your business is one of your special interests, and we know that from sort of anecdotal evidence, quite often, a lot of the
mm.
times, the person is the technician in their business. If you ever read the E-Myth, if you haven't, I suggest you read it. But
I
there's
haven't,
the
I'm going
concept,
to. Yeah.
yeah, there's the concept of the technician, and the technician is the person who delivers the work. So whatever that looks like, it's not, it's the term in the book. It's not a technical term, but
Yeah.
it means like if you're an accountant and you do the accounts, you are the technician in your business. The trouble is, a lot of business owners, whether they're neurodiverse or not,
Mm,
that's what they enjoy doing. They enjoy doing that bit of it. And in actual fact, their business is a distraction from doing that.
mm,
So they tend to do that bit rather than all the rest of it. And when they get burnt out, they spend more time doing the things that they like doing rather than and avoiding the things that are going to add more mental stress, more cognitive load, more of the
mm.
stuff that, is like grit in the gears. And that's why it doesn't matter whether you're on the spectrum or not, you need time off and you
Yeah.
need other interests. You need projects elsewhere, things which engage your brain in a completely different way. It's why one of the reasons why I like running, because it challenges me in a dimension that I am never, all of my business stuff is high frequency shit in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
I rarely get involved in anything really physical.
Mm,
Um, but my projects, my personal projects, my domestic projects,
mm.
and the running centers me in my body much more,
Yeah.
much more focused on the doing rather than the thinking. And I found that that can really balance me out. That if I'm feeling the overwhelm inside my head, go for a run, pick up a paintbrush, do something in the garden, just distract yourself with something physical and hard usually. And I find that's what I kind of did to recharge this week. Oddly, just spending time on my own in the garden, allowing me to recover. I haven't done that much running, but the heat just. Have you got any go-tos that you have to rebalance mind and body?
Yeah, so one of my hobbies is that I'm the editor for our local parish magazine, and I find kind of laying out the pages of that. I don't mean mind numbing in a bad way. I just find it the kind of task I can switch my brain off and just crack on with it. So actually, when I'm feeling overwhelmed and just kind of need to recalibrate and everything, that is one of my hobbies where I just feel like I can move through it slowly. I find it very relaxing. Um, and also it's ticking something off my to-do list at the same time. So it's sort of, yeah, I am somebody that needs to feel like they're getting stuff done. So that's a real problem for me. So actually, if that getting stuff done is something that actually is not making me more exhausted, then that's like a win-win. I do struggle. I know I need to get past this maybe, but I do struggle to properly chill out. I'm not somebody that can lie down and read a book without kind of bouncing back up and going and doing some irrelevant, clean the microwave. What are you doing, Hannah? Just go and read a book.
Reason number 276 why holidays are a nightmare.
Yes.
We've touched on it before. We're going to spend a whole
Yeah.
session
We'll
talking
do a
about
whole
it.
one on it.
But I hear you that
Yeah.
winding down and chilling out for other people doesn't look the same well, especially for me. He's doing something in the garden, he's sweating it that perfectly happy,
Yeah.
charging, feeling great about it.
It's what I remember once getting an unnecessary amount of rage in my brain because I read an article that was about don't look at your phone before you go to bed. The blue screens will keep you awake for life. And I'm like, no, that literally is my downtime. I go to bed and then I scroll through. Can you hear that noise in the background?
No.
Oh, good. It's my dog digging up the carpet because he's an idiot. Sorry, a bit of a tangent. Um, yeah, my downtime when I go to bed, I can't just relax into sleep. I have to distract. So I just scroll through TikTok or all the things they tell you not to do. And that is my way of calming down and getting ready for sleep. So we
I have
just,
the endless lists. So
yes.
I look through and review my lists, and I have to
Mm,
stop that because otherwise my brain just envisaged each task. And
yeah.
I've had it where I've woken up all through the night with this going on, and then you wake up in the morning, and then you have to go and do some of those tasks, and it's just like,
Yeah.
I've done this. I don't want to have to do this. Oh.
Yeah, that's exhausting.
Yeah.
We have to do what we all have to do, don't we? We all know, or hopefully we know ourselves well enough. Maybe that's what this thing is, giving yourself permission to actually, whatever that looks like, don't buy into the kind of, this is a really bad thing to do before bed. Because if it isn't for you, if it helps you, then, there's not a blanket approach to the advice on this stuff. So, or
I,
there is, but it's not aimed at us.
yeah. I do. I absolutely love a blanket statement. I do. You should. Oh, should I now? In tests, people have discovered people. Oh, people these days. What do those people look like?
The other day, sorry, last random thought for the day, I promise you. The other day, somebody
No, it
said,
won't be. It won't be the
oh, no, it
last
won't
random
be.
thought of the day.
Why am
Don't
I
make
lying?
promises you're going to
Why am
break.
I lying on the podcast? The other day, somebody said, the internet and social media will be the death of our children. And I said, sorry, I just want to throw a fly in the ointment here. And don't get me wrong, I'm fully aware of the risks and all of that stuff. I'm not naive to that. But actually, for neurodiverse people, for children or everybody really, but for neurodiverse people in particular, I would say, that's their way of communicating with humans. That is their social interaction. So actually, if we say that that's terrible and dangerous for everybody, then what happens to the people that really struggle to go to social events and I mean, I appreciate in an ideal world, we probably would all benefit from a bit of both, but it isn't so simple to say this is bad and everybody has to do this instead, because for a lot of people, this instead isn't an option or doesn't work very well. That's my soapbox.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that, different outlets are required,
Mm,
especially, through different I have cycles that happen, and at times I just haven't got the attention switching for
yeah,
other people. I just
yeah,
don't. I have to be away, doing my own thing, thinking my own thing,
yeah.
on my own terms. And what I love, absolutely love, email and text messages.
Yes.
I can precisely communicate exactly what I mean,
Mm,
providing the detail in as much detail as I need to, and clarifying information,
yeah,
links, the whole lot, rather than conversation, which when somebody's talking at me, especially when they're giving instructions,
yeah.
oh man, oh, just the amount of
Write it
times
down, please.
people, all sorts of people, give you a load of information, and then you're like, well, I now have more questions than I had at the start of this. And you're going to just get tipped up if I start asking you all of those questions. So I'm going to have to make some deductions and education guess from context and reference and meaning. but it still means I've got about 4 dozen questions, which, just
It's it's hard, and I think maybe, my message here is to be an advocate for yourself, for the things that work best for you. I remember with a sort of client or potential client, them saying to me, "Do not email me, Hannah. I prefer to talk on the phone." And I email back, "I don't." So actually, maybe we find a compromise here, because it can't all be email, but it can't also all be a phone call, because both of us prefer the other. So let's find something that works for the two of us. But yeah, maybe most people do prefer a phone call. I don't know. I don't think so, but
what
I
psychopath
Google.
phones people out of the blue in 2020
Oh, cancel. Ring, ring.
voicemail?
Goodbye.
And unless you are a customer and it is during work
Yeah,
hours,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you're
absolutely.
already in my phone,
Yeah.
leave a message, I'll get back to you, take a ticket and wait. I've got other things that are really important right now. And you wanna the other day, how about this then? The other day I was in a business, and this was a business that was gonna ask
Yeah,
me if we engaged their services was gonna cost me
yeah,
several hundreds of pounds. So it wasn't like a small investment. I'd come to a
yeah.
realization that I needed the help, and I was prepared to put the money in. Having a conversation with that person, the phone rings, excuse me, takes the call. I've gone to the trouble of getting in my car, driving to your business, showing you exactly what I wanted, engaging you in a conversation. And before you finish talking to me, somebody else comes along. Nah, it's all right. They've jumped the queue. You're not needed. What? I'm sorry. Let me just take this. I'll get them to call back. Fine. Thanks very much. Yeah, I'm just with somebody. I'll give you a call back in 5 minutes. Set expectations. I don't mean ignore it like your business is shut. I understand business. You take your to then wander off and just the amount. Just I'll just stand here like I don't exist then until I blink back into your existence. What? Just I don't get it. I don't. And
Yeah.
it's not the first time. The amount of time at the networking meeting, talking to somebody, and I asked them a question. Somebody said something that they obviously heard. I didn't hear it, but they
Mm.
said, and they just turned their back on me and started having a conversation with the person. I was like, all right.
Am I invisible?
In my brain, though, my brain immediately goes, well, you're missing out on some quality repartee here. That's
Mine does the
you.
opposite. My brain's like, oh, it's because you're really boring. They found something better. We need to do workshops. You like need to build up.
I was born awesome, and I've just been getting better ever since. And I just keep finding more ways to be awesome. And if other people don't appreciate it, well, they're not my audience. That's on you. I'm
That is a
involved
better
with
way to
Gen
think.
Pop, I have to deal with them. And we're not going to vibe with everyone, A
No.
hundred. This one of my therapists once said to me, 100%. So your mindset is 100% of people in the world are going to like you. Seems reasonable. All right, all right. 99.9%. There's a few odd people that might just, I don't know.
I love that you said one of my therapists, because I literally say that all the time. And I just want to clarify, that's not that I've got 10 on the go at once. I just mean I've rattled through a few of them over the years.
I think
And
some of
again, not because they ditched me.
I
I
think
just
some of
got
my
bored of them.
therapists need therapy now.
I say that so often, like it's such a standard statement. One of my therapists said, and people say, "Have you got a few?" Oh no, no, not at the same time, but I've had a few. Yes, I have. Next.
Consecutively, not concurrently.
Yes. Oh, brilliant.
Right. Well, on
Yeah.
that bombshell, on that revelation, um, I'm going to give people their homework, Hannah. And it was something you sent me, and I've been thinking about this and thinking about as only an autist would do, like really deep, peeling back the layers and
Yeah.
deep into what it means. So you sent me a thing saying too don't be too much or something too
Yes,
and
the
you
inverted, yeah.
and you put it in quotes
Mm.
and I know what you meant. I know exactly what you meant. But actually, I'm going to take these sort of things out of quotes. It's a valid thing to say to me, Stuart, you're too much. Now, Now, I don't even care if you mean that in a bad way. I am just going to assume it means that you are telling me that I have too much awesome for you to cope with right now. And you are telling me that there is a boundary that you aren't willing to let me across. That's totally on you. But too much is not a slur.
Yeah,
Too
you're
much
right.
is not on me.
Mm.
If you're finding me too much, you just don't have a brain awesome enough to conceive of the gargantuan topics, themes, interests, puzzles, riddles that I am wrangling with at anyone. You're too much, Stuart. Thank you.
They're lacking in capacity.
That's
They
it.
are in fact, they're not enough.
Well, there we go. See, the opposite side of you're too much is
Like
I'm not
blacklisted.
enough. So next time somebody says to me, and I've heard this, versions of this, we've all heard it, you're too much. Thank you. That's just going to what? I didn't mean it like that. Doesn't matter. That's how it was accepted. You're welcome.
That's how it hit me.
You're welcome. You're welcome to this.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
It's a limited edition. I'm not weird. I'm not odd. I'm a limited edition. One of one.
Superb.
Right now, yes, go away, look in the mirror, say, I'm one of one. I'm not odd. I'm not weird. I am a limited edition. You're not too much. They're not enough. Right, Hannah Logan, go about your business. Go about your day. Go and be awesome elsewhere. We have done. Thank you very much for watching. And that has been Oddcast episode 3.
Cheers.
Bye.